I know it has a lot to do with opioids again. So, like, what are like, I guess like, I don't know if I'm using the term right, but like analogous drugs and antagonist drugs. I don't know if I'm using that term right.
Yeah, no, definitely, because that's the thing. We are talking about all these receptors, and many times how the drugs work, they bind to a receptor to produce an effect. So the agonist is the one that binds and is going to produce that response, and the antagonist is the one that blocks that receptor, okay? So for example, when we talk about the opioids, right? The opioids are very dangerous because the life-threatening effect they have is that they make the people stop breathing. And this is how the most of the deaths by overdose happen, because there is a big depression on the respiratory center that basically the brain tells the body stop breathing, right? And obviously that's a fatal situation.
Right.
So this is because it's binding to a kind of receptor that, if I remember correctly, are the mu receptors, right? And the opioids, like the mu receptors, they bind there and they produce that effect. But you know that it's being in the news that is encouraged, and now it's easy to get an antagonist for that effect, that is the naloxone. So what does the naloxone do? Actually bind to that receptor, kicks out the opioid, and avoid that to happen. It does not trigger that response of producing the respiratory depression. So binds to the same receptor, but does not produce the effect. So when somebody is overdosing in opioids and all these mood receptors are active and are saying the brain, stop breathing, then the naloxone comes in, basically gives like, they kick the opioids from the receptor, they bind and say, forget about that order, just keep working normally, right? So then is the antagonist effect. So basically, this in the case of opioids is very dramatic because it's actually is a very good antidote, right? In many of the drugs, the antagonist is used an antidote, basically to reverse the effects that the drugs produce in the body.
So, I assume that with something like like the Noxalone, you need that specific antagonist for that specific agonist slash receptor combination. So like Noxalone is not going to work on everything, I suppose. Maybe only like I guess dopamine releasing opioids, I suppose,
Oh, that's
or vice
an
versa.
excellent point. Yeah, that's an excellent point, because that's this is one important issue now as well, because the fentanyl is also being mixed in different parts of the country with another depressant drug that is called xylazine. But xylazine acts in a different manner. So as you were saying, the naloxone doesn't work with xylazine. So if everybody having an overdose because they were consuming a mixture of fentanyl and xylazine, the naloxone will do the job for the fentanyl part because binds to the same receptors as morphine. But xylazine, there's nothing you can do, right? So even you use huge amount of naloxone, it won't affect that. So yeah, they are very specific. They have to act exactly in the same receptor to have the desired effect.
Right.